Good thing we're not live yet. Are we live?
I don't see anything.
I mean, I hope people understand sarcasm voice, but maybe not. That's fine.
I get it.
Yeah,
I know.
we got you.
I'm talking about the other. You were worried about other people. No, I wasn't worried about y'all.
Hey, has anybody seen the Book of Henry?
I have.
Oh, we're live.
Are we live?
We are.
Yeah.
Was it, I heard it was a dumpster fire. I didn't see it.
Oh, I like your sweater, Barb.
Oh,
It was okay. I don't. Some old lady on my route was like, "Take this and what." She gave it to me to watch. She bought a copy and told me to go home and watch it. So, but I can see where talking about his treatment of Trevorrow's treatment of the female characters and stuff, and I could see what people complained about, but it wasn't terrible.
Well, we're in for a treat then when we get the Benioff and Weiss stuff then. For treating the female characters.
Yeah, because they treat women wonderfully.
Yes.
Well, I mean, actress. I mean, Daenerys. She's a strong character, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
And the girl.
But
Listen to him.
yes,
Listen to you go now. I'm so proud. My
Wait, are
heart.
we talking?
Game of Thrones.
Okay, don't talk past season 5, episode 1, please.
Okay. All right. I won't mention anything that happened.
So the last. Are we live? Should I
Yeah,
even
we're still
say?
live, Barb.
Because I don't want to spoil anything
Oh
for
yeah, don't
people
spoil
watching.
anything. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
It's been out.
if you're not past season 5 yet,
Okay,
then
so,
it's really on
the,
you.
the episode we just finished, Tyrion, Peter Dinklage's character, he just got tied up in the brothel by the guy that,
And not in a good
Khaleesi.
way. Yeah.
yeah, like kidnapped. He just got kidnapped. Sorry,
Yes.
Mm.
by the guy.
That's
Khaleesi
the
fired.
last episode he appears in too. Really.
Oh,
Are you see? I don't like
Oh my
people
God.
saying anything, even if they're joking. I
The
can't
dwarf's out of
stand
the
it
box now.
because I don't know if they're joking or if they're serious. And then I
You
go,
just have to watch.
"What if he was serious?" Oh gosh.
Right.
And I was 2 seasons ahead of you, and now you're somehow ahead of me.
The wife and child went out of town for the weekend. I'm halfway through 6.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I'll be done by the weekend, I think. We'll see.
so excited.
Yeah, this is a show.
It's because when I found out that you were watching it too, I'm just like, no way Canada's beating USA.
USA.
Exactly.
USA.
GOT.
Hilarious.
All right. Hey, let's do this. For those of you recording at home, here we go.
Oh, hold on.
All right.
I'm not ready.
All right.
All right. Yes.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
You
Your
ready?
box is in.
All right. Now.
No. I've got to look at. Okay. Yes.
Sure.
I couldn't see my thing. Your
Is the boy
the box
ready?
was in the way.
Is the boy
It's ready now.
Okay.
It's ready.
All right. Sweet. Here we go. Counting down in 3, 2, 1. Record.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Light it up.
Welcome to Unmistakably Star Wars, your source for a high-quality, informative, and entertaining look into the Star Wars galaxy. So strap yourself in, because here's where the fun begins.
All right, I've seen a lot of things. I've been all around this great big world, and I've seen all kinds of things. To kind of subquote David Lee Roth and the Beach Boys, I was in the doctor's office about a week ago, and as I was sitting in the waiting room, I peered across the room, and there on the far wall, in its glorious wooden stack there, organizer, was a pile of magazines. So I wandered over because who knows? Your appointment's supposed to start in 10 minutes, but you know it never starts on time. So
Yep.
I wandered over, and somewhere between Sports Illustrated and Vogue, I came across this title of this actual magazine, and that is the Toe Times magazine. Unless you start to think that I'm talking about TOE because it's a doctor's office and it would be a natural magazine for a podiatrist to have. This is actually tow, as in tow truck, the Tow Truck Times magazine. I was dumbfounded to say the least. That was not on my radar by any stretch of the imagination. It's not something that I thought there'd be a market for. There's nothing against tow truck drivers, of course. But I found it fascinating. So that's the one I picked. I had to like sit down with that and read through Tow Truck Times magazine. I'm fascinated. I felt completely emasculated, very not manly. There's things I need to do for myself to be able, I think, to achieve the rank of a Tow Truck Times subscriber and feel confident with it.
Have a tow truck?
I think that would probably be part of it. Have a tow truck, and who knows what else. But let me ask this though: does it bring up for you any other ideas of what magazines would it be in the Star Wars galaxy that you would unexpect? Like if folks were to go to the Ring of Catherine and go shopping at the market, or maybe even on their way into Mos Eisley, they stop by the Star Wars equivalent of a Quick Stop and grab a pack of something to smoke and a magazine. What magazines do you think would be floating out there in the inner and outer rims? Barb, any thoughts on that?
That's an interesting thought. Mos Eisley?
Well, I mean, wherever. I mean,
yeah. No, just thinking of Mos Eisley, you know, you've got the Huts, like something like the Huts Guide to Massage Therapy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds
nice.
That would not be a book that a magazine as Luke Skywalker, whoever else would wander into that cantina would want to pick up.
Now, is that the Huts giving massages or receiving massages?
Nah.
Sorry.
With the little T-Rex arms, I don't know, like, how does that work? I don't know.
I honestly did not delve that much into that thought, but maybe it's a directory of people who will actually do it.
Okay, so it's like the free magazines they give out in Las Vegas, right? Free massage. Come to Jabba's Palace.
Yeah, you had to ask me first.
Nice. Carl, any thoughts on this? What magazines they might have within the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, you said unexpected. I thought the expected one might be Empire magazine. That might be expected.
Yeah.
But you were at the doctor's office. I remember the dentist office as a kid. They might have had highlight sabers.
Oh, nice.
Well played. Or Filled in Beams.
Oh, nice.
Porgs Illustrated.
Oh, Porgs Illustrated. What about that centerfold?
The best one would be more like it might be a Better Home and Gardens type of. It might be called Gungan Dens.
Oh, nice.
I ain't gonna beat that.
I like that. I mean, I think that among other things, I think especially in like a medical physicians in the Star Wars universe office, would they have, like, you brought up the Gungans? I think would there be like the guide to Gungan foot disorders or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They jump high. They need their feet. That's
right.
For sure.
It's true. Eve, any thoughts on this?
I mean, I went sophisticated and not funny. I went immediately to Dryden's, like, the atmosphere on his ship that I can't remember the name of at all right now.
Yes.
But I thought of Kyber crystal chandeliers and home decorating. Because, I mean, you would think they'd be that extra.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. I could just hear, like, Jay Peterman's voice from Seinfeld as well, talking about,
Stop it.
Hang these Kyber crystals in your cave for the ultimate Jedha feel. That'd be amazing. Be amazing.
You got to move on from Peterman.
Can we get Jay Peterman in a Star Wars film? How amazing would that be? I'm on board for that.
I'm on it.
That is Jay Peterman, a Star Wars story. I like it. All right. I like it. Oh, my goodness. Well, my little Tauntauns, welcome to Unmistakably Star Wars. This is our 137th episode, streaming to you live on the Twitterverse and YouTube right now. With me, as always, the ever-affable lover of Ewoks, Barb the Canadian.
Yes, that's me.
Welcome. Barb, you brought me something tonight, which our listeners can't see, and our social media audience may not see right now either, but you attempted to pay your debt.
I did.
And you brought me Canadian currency.
I did.
Yeah.
As all the listeners out there know, Devin likes to make his jabs at me on air about being Canadian. Well, it isn't solely on air, and I was being totally serious in a text of, oh, by the way, I owe you for getting the solo tickets.
Right.
How much do I owe you?
Yeah.
And, he texted me back what I owed him. And then the next text was, but I'm not sure what the Canadian conversion is for that.
Right, you got to convert.
And I was like, just for that, I'm going to pay you in Canadian money because
I'm going to put it on the wall of the studio so we can all enjoy it.
That's right. You
Absolutely.
should.
Absolutely. Now, but here's you have to be an optimist, Barb. Just be glad you're not French. Because if you were French, now you're not French Canadian, are you?
Well, I am not,
okay.
But my friend who listens to our podcast is.
Used to listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Former.
Lose one, gain two.
So just be careful what you say here.
Okay. I'll be super careful to our French Canadian listeners out there. Okay?
Oh.
So listen, we've got some fun stuff to talk about tonight on the pod.
You've only introduced me. You got so distracted with.
See what happens when I talk about Canadians. Also joining us tonight on the pod, representing the Deep South, the man whose cup overfloweth with sweet tea, Carl Hassler.
Welcome. Thank you. And if you want to be associated with winners and champions, associate with us because we're representing tonight the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Golden State Warriors. We're all get on board with us. We're winners.
Yeah, and the Grey Cup winners.
Oh, the Grey Cup.
Yeah, Ottawa won the Grey Cup.
What is the Grey Cup?
Canada's version of the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. For Canada's version of football.
Oh, Barb, you're just walking.
I know. What am I doing?
This is great.
That's the funniest episode of How I Met Your Mother when they do the Grey Cup and Robin Sparkles. Look it up, watch it. It's hilarious.
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Not to be outdone by Barb the Canadian or Carl, but as always, bookending our 48 states, the one and only Infus Eve.
Hey, everybody. It's just Eve again.
Oh, it's just Eve. We've returned to, I don't know.
Emphasless.
Emphasless. Wow, that sounds like a disease. That could be a magazine, too.
Emphasless.
Yes. Go see your doctor. Looks like you've got a case of Emphasless. All right. Don't worry, it'll go away with a little ointment. All right, let's take a look at what's in the news this week. Rian Johnson, we've got new trilogy details. This is exciting, even though I'm pumping it up way more than the article actually reveals. And also, what is kind of exciting is we've got a brand new Star Wars video game on the horizon that was announced at E3 just this past weekend, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to jump into our closer look. And here's what's going to go down. This is actually going to be part one of a 3-part series, and our overarching theme is, has Star Wars reached its breaking point? Part one tonight, we're going to talk about what are Blu-ray sales for The Last Jedi, as well as fan toxicity on social media actually saying about the future of the franchise. The next week, we'll jump into, does fandom deserve, or do they desire critically acclaimed films? The Last Jedi, as an example, received numerous high praises from honest-to-goodness movie critics out there, and yet we've got this little thing called the Rotten Tomatoes audience score that is drastically lower. So we want to talk about, is fandom, is that what they're actually craving? Do they want things that are going to be critically acclaimed? And then the third week, we'll wrap it up, and we want to talk about, which I think is a fascinating conversation in and of itself that we'll probably weave into each of these episodes, and that is, to what extent should fandom dictate the direction of Star Wars? There seems to be so many people up in arms about they didn't do this, they didn't do that. So what the heck? To what degree should Lucasfilm play the fan service card? We're going to talk about that. Stick around, my little tauntauns. The news is next.
I have good news for you, my lord. That's so interesting.
Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
All right, news broke this last weekend with E3. There is a new game on the horizon scheduled for holiday season 2019. It seems like 2019 is going to be big for a lot of reasons. There's another little movie coming out right around that time as well. So this game is entitled Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order. Eve, you are our resident gamer babe.
Yes.
Your thoughts on this?
Oh, give it to me. I'm ready. First of all, as soon as they announced that it was Respawn doing this, I immediately on board. They are fantastic. And just everything that I've read and watched about this, yes. I love all the speculation about who the actual Padawan is going to be.
Okay.
And they haven't confirmed that yet. So that'll be interesting. And I do also want to mention a couple months ago, we talked about a comic that mentioned a Jedi or a Padawan that had been left over from the whole Order 66. So will that tie in? I don't know.
We're going to see. You know what? If you would, though, Eve, inform us a little bit. You said that it's a big deal because it's being produced by Respawn. I was part of a text thread between you and Jeremy and myself, and I felt like the adults were in the room chatting, and I didn't understand what was going on. So what is it about this company, Respawn Entertainment, that makes this announcement so appealing?
Well, so let's back up a little bit. The text conversation between the three of us was actually about Bethesda Game Studios, who do
Respawn, Walmart, Kmart. It's all the same to us non-gamers.
No, they're not. They are not the same. I personally have not played a Respawn game, but I know a lot of people who have. And me personally, I am either an EA gamer or a Bethesda gamer. They just, though their games seem to just, or excuse me, a Naughty Dog, they hit all the right spots with storyline and gameplay, and just, I love it.
Okay.
Now,
all right. Yes.
The Respawn.
Yes.
Everything that I've heard is similar to Bethesda and the stuff that Jeremy and I were geeking out at, and you were doing your little 8-bit gifts with.
Yes. Well, because there's no matching the power and the depth of imagination that goes into actually mastering the Atari 2600 console games. Barb,
sure.
Your thoughts on this?
I'm excited.
Yeah?
I have Battlefront 2 for PlayStation 4, and I love it, but it's nice to have an announcement for a game that's not Battlefront, but Star Wars.
Yeah.
And like Eve said, just the story that sounds like is going to come with this game is exciting.
Yeah.
As well as, the time period. I know, Eve, you touched on it a little bit. Just who could this be? And the wheels started turning, because we don't know a lot of Jedis that survived, but we know a couple.
Right.
And so I just started thinking, Kanan. And I'm like, how cool would that be?
Interesting.
To have a young Kanan.
Would you prefer that over a brand new character?
I would, because I really love the connections and how stories are going to connect one character to another.
Yeah.
And because he's only been in Rebels, it would be nice to have a crossover for him.
Okay. I'd buy that. Some of the things that are describing this game include, as we mentioned, by Electronic Arts, developer Respawn. The game will arrive holiday 2019, and here's what little bit we know. We revealed that the title, Jedi Fallen Order, will be a single-player campaign. That's fascinating. All the pushback that the original Battlefront got a couple years ago. Be a single-player action-adventure title that tells the story set shortly after the events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Carl, you buying this? Whether, if not physically, just philosophically?
Yeah, I agree with what everybody else has said. It's good to see something other than Battlefronts. And you just mentioned there was problems with people, not everybody, but when you only have online competition gaming with the Battlefront title, some people get left out. I know, more of the younger, the newer gamers are into that, but people who are old like me and don't have time to get so good that they don't just keep getting killed 600 times and then get offline. They like to have something they can kind of do. And and that's the way we grew up playing games. Anyway, it was just, we didn't have the internet, one time. It used to not exist, believe it or not. So,
What?
But I think it's cool. I don't know if Kanan would be cool, but at the same time, we've kind of seen his story in the comics, so I would almost want to go with somebody. I do like the crossover. I understand what Barbara's saying. I'd like to see as much crossover in Star Wars as possible, but at the same time, like I said, I think we've seen a lot of his story in the comics, so they could just do a different character.
Do you think, Barb, that when it comes to this time period, that we're going to have something brand new revealed to us? That's going to be a key moment or a key kind of storyline concept that's going to really bring illumination to the greater Star Wars story?
We absolutely could, and that would be great, because we've had a lot of movies and TV series that are tackling this time period between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Yeah.
And but most of them are coming right before A New Hope, not right after Revenge of the Sith, which is what this game is planning on doing. So they could absolutely reveal something. And I love that different avenues are doing that. We're getting video games. Even Battlefront 2 revealed a few things that were part of the Star Wars storyline that aren't in anything else. So absolutely, I think it would be great to do that.
Eve, let me come back to you on this. You know, one of the things growing up that, and I don't know if it's part of your gaming background or not, but Carl, you can probably identify with this, having been around
a long time
since the Atari 2600, just like myself,
just like me.
Yes,
but there used to be, especially with the Nintendo NES, right, the original Nintendo, and there used to be this game formula that was battle, or proceed until you get to the boss at the end of that level, right?
Yes.
Right.
Is that something that should be, I guess, coming back? And I'm so far removed from the video game scene. I'm pretty sure that Battlefront doesn't have that. I hear you laughing, Eve. But is that appealing to the modern day gamer, Eve?
To go back to that kind of battle, then boss?
Yes.
Yes. I think in a lot of ways that still is around. I mean, even with, it's just masked in levels that don't look as linear as the SNES did. Yeah. So you would fly through the Mario board and then bam, beat the boss at the end and then physically see yourself go to another level. Right. Whereas these games, you do a lot of battle and questing, and then at the end of that particular quest, you have a big baddie that you have to beat, and then it's on to the next thing without any kind of fanfare. So it still exists. It's just kind of masked under all the new massive storylines and graphics and things.
Well, let me follow up then, Eve. If we're getting something similar to that, single-player campaign, right? So if you have friends helping you, they're probably AI.
Yes. They are AI.
Yeah, see how I threw that in there, sounding like I know what I'm talking about. I should have been a doctor. I could have concurred. But let me ask you this then: if that's kind of the formula that Jedi Fallen Order does take, we don't know if it does or not at this point, but let's say it does. Who are the big baddies, or what will be the big baddie moments that you would personally like to do battle with?
Palpatine.
Wow. Wow.
But I can't see that happening because I don't know how that would fit in canon. But I mean, think about it. He executes Order 66 and you watch all of your friends and loved ones die. Who are you going to go after?
Yeah, maybe.
But then are you a Jedi? I don't know.
I think it'd be fascinating if you started off and you actually had to escape being hunted down, at least for a level or so.
Yeah.
See, I'd like to see a young Darth Vader, newly in his suit.
Yeah.
You could do both, because you could start it as the temple is destroyed by Anakin just turning to Darth Vader, but not in the suit yet, hadn't fought Obi-Wan yet. And then as you get through it, maybe closer to the end, you get to a newly minted Darth Vader, you come back around to him, and then actually see Palpatine too after that, possibly. So put some Inquisitors in there too, just different things like that.
But if Palpatine was the big baddie at the end, you wouldn't live. That would be the end of the game.
Well, to win the game, you have to live. I mean, there's no you won, you died, yay. I mean, I think you would have to but you would escape. I mean, you don't kill Vader either. You just have to sort of escape, almost like Ahsoka did in Rebels. She fought Vader. She didn't kill him, but she escaped. So that was victory enough.
But if this is a young Padawan, maybe it takes a totally different arc, and he's going to the Outer Rim and not even
Snoke.
Well, just not even engaging in any of the characters that we know, because he manages to survive and he doesn't want to get caught. So it has a lot of
level 1, escape death. Levels 2 through 10, you're just hanging out in the cave. I love it. I love this.
Are you gonna play?
If it's levels 2 through 10 sitting in a cave, yeah, I'm so good at that. Oh my gosh, this is the one I want to be multiplayer on. I can sit passively like nobody else can.
That wasn't what I meant.
Oh, all right. Tell us more what you meant there.
I don't know, just challenges and things that it's really interesting to try. As Eva was saying, the way that games have evolved, it's not normally the sequence of a beginning level and end level.
Right.
And so You know, it would be really cool if it was open world. I don't know if they've even talked about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not a game creator. I'm a game player.
Yeah.
And I know what I like.
Yeah. Well, my son is a game player. And no. Yeah. I mean, it's probably about a 1-to-1 ratio between hours spent at his full-time job and hours spent online playing games. And he plays some new falutin game right now that he's totally into, and all his homies are into right now. Eve, you probably know the name.
What's it called?
I don't know. It has something to do with establishing little colonies and like you can build boats and go sail and stuff like that. But it's not Star Wars.
Civilization.
I just smile and nod my head. It's the dad thing to do. Carl, big baddies out there. Big baddies out there.
Yeah.
Who would you want to battle?
I think the ones I just mentioned. I think I'd like to see Anakin as he just turned to Darth Vader, and then then as time goes on, you get away from him, but then you fight him again, and then, like I said, some Inquisitors possibly, and you could even start out at the bottom level once you get past getting past Anakin, you're getting past some clone troopers, and just build up. And I would, like Eve, I'd like to end up fighting Palpatine.
Mm-hmm. That'd be sweet.
I think I want everybody new. From the main character to the villains, I give me new people, or people that we know very little about that have just had little nuanced appearances in film or comic or whatever.
That's what we had with Dark Forces. I'm really dating myself here.
Dark Forces. That was an amazing game. I skipped many days of college to stay home and play that game.
Yes.
Okay, you're right. I take that back. Let's get Glass Joe and all those guys from Punch Out.
Yes.
And bring them over.
Body blow. Body blow.
Yes. Body blow.
Well, hey, speaking of new things that are right around the corner, of course, it was released a couple of weeks ago that Rian Johnson is going to have his very own trilogy. The Last Jedi sucked so badly, we're giving you your own 3-movie deal as your reward.
Yes.
We know very little, and quite frankly, we still don't know very much. But this little interesting tidbit hit the interwebs yesterday, and he was spending some time speaking with From the Grapevine. And it was thrown out there that his quote is, I can't tell you as far as when things are going to be released. I can't tell you because we don't know yet. But here it comes. Maybe in 2 years. It's just in the early stages. Barb, 2 years away. That puts us right around summer 2020. Is that when you're ready for the new Rian Johnson trilogy?
I don't know. I mean, that'll be after we've finished our episodic trilogy.
Right.
And we know that there's a couple other standalones slated to come out. So I almost feel like it needs to be maybe even... In the article, he said he's not even sure exactly what it's going to be about, but other than it'll be totally new characters away from the Skywalker trilogy.
Right.
And so it just doesn't seem like it should come out at the same time or around another standalone.
Do you think if it comes out like a year later, let's say Christmas 2020, that's good timing, that we've put the episode 9, whatever it is, behind us. We're ready for our annual Star Wars release. It's Christmas time. The snow is falling, or in the terms of the San Francisco Bay Area, the temperature drops below 60, and we march to the theater in our flip-flops.
Okay, I've lost your point. But
yes.
that seems really quick to me. I would more lean towards 2021 because we've gotten this pattern of an episode film, a standalone, an episode film, a standalone, an episode film, and then another episode film. No, there needs to be a standalone in there. So let's say 2021 to give us a new trilogy with new things in it.
Okay, so you want a little time to pass. You're not ready for the Rebound trilogy yet.
No, okay. I want a standalone in between.
Need some time.
Yes. As I said, I think
I
that's
agree.
3
Standalones
times.
In between these long-term relationships are the way to go.
We've talked about the possibility of 2 standalones that are...
It's true.
And those seem to be slated to...
There have been times when I've had 2 standalones before another trilogy.
Next.
Barb, thank you for your commentary on that. Carl, weigh in here. Are we ready for this? Do we need some more time to let our mind and our heart heal from episode 9 or Christmas 2020? Do we start the Rian Johnson trilogy?
Well, there's no way to answer it when you say we, because everybody's so fractured. You're never going to get everybody
You and I,
so
Carl, just
just us. Yes, I mean, yes, because again, we're, as we mentioned earlier, we're old, we're original.
Yes,
we remember the desert.
Fans.
We remember being introduced to Star. No, we remember being introduced to Star Wars young, and then it gone away for like eternity, and like where is it gone? And then it came back, and so again, as I've said several times on the show, I want as much as possible, as soon as possible. I'm not going to get burnt out. As long as they're using quality directors and doing quality stories, I'm not going to get down to this is not the one I wanted, so it stinks, and there's too many women in this, and it stinks. And I mean, all those people just go home. Y'all are messing everything up for everybody else. Just go away, shut up, and let us enjoy the movies. And if you sit down and try to enjoy it, you might like it too. And so, I want it as soon as possible.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think the goal for folks in our demographic, Carl, is we saw Star Wars in diapers. We want to see our last Star Wars when we're in diapers again.
Diapers again.
Yeah. Eve, your thoughts on this possible 2020 release?
I'm normally on the give it, let's keep it coming, but I feel like that's too soon.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. I mean,
so we have
the way the article
and 2 beer drinkers is how I'm taking it. two of you want to just let it kind of like ruminate for a little bit, let it settle, and Carl and I are just like, bring the Star Wars beer bong. We're ready for all you got. Okay.
Keg stands.
Yeah. Yes. All right.
Balance.
There you go. Well, Eve, speaking of. It's time once again for that game that is sending shockwaves through the galaxy. That's right. It's time for this week's installment of If. Eve, take it away.
All right. Everybody knows how to play by now, and none of you have any idea what I'm going to throw your way. So, Barb, I'm going to start with you.
Of course.
If you were chosen to karaoke at the Mos Eisley Cantina, what would your song choice be?
Oh, wow.
Now, this is like a real world song brought into Star Wars Galaxy. Okay.
Yep.
You had to start with me. Yeah. I want time to,
of course,
think about a good answer for this. Oh my goodness.
First thing that comes to your brain.
I'm so excited.
Oh wow, the Pointer Sisters? Wow. That is amazing.
I don't know why that's the first thing that came to my head.
That is amazing.
Something about being in the Mos Eisley Cantina makes me excited.
Clearly. Okay, we are going to make sure that when Star Wars Land opens, we go with Barb into the Mos Eisley Cantina there. This is going to happen. All right, good. That's a good question. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. All right. Well, Devin.
Well, I'm going to veer away from the Pointer Sister track.
Are you sure?
I don't know why that came to my head. Yeah. So please.
But now that you've got like 80s grooves going through my head, I think I'm going to maybe go with that route. That's a comfortable genre I feel good with. Here's what I think I'm going to do. This is going to kind of be the Ponda Baba ode. And it will be Culture Club's Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?
Oh, God.
Do You Really Want to Make Me Cry? Yeah,
was that Conja Club or Culture Club?
Yeah, exactly.
Culture Club, not the.
That's the Culture Club. Yeah. So
you should say that and then start singing.
I'm thinking of their other hit, Karma Chameleon.
Yeah.
That was the first song I ever sang.
You come and go. Yeah. Red, gold, and green. Red, gold, and green.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Yeah. All right. So I am going unquestionably with Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? Culture Club.
Wow.
Carl. I don't know what to say to that.
There's so many. I don't know,
It's true.
I've thought about this a lot, actually, and I didn't know this was the question coming tonight, but since we did talk about karaoke 2 years ago,
right?
Yeah.
The obvious one would be like, you do the Smooth Criminal, saying, Annie, are you okay?
Oh,
nice. That would be good. You got, you could change some songs we have now, like, it's the end of Alderaan as we know it, and I feel fine, or something like that. You know, droids just want to have fun, because that song almost has like a little R2-D2 beep in the middle.
Yeah.
You got Baby Got Back. The first line would be, I like big huts and I cannot lie.
Oh my God, you're in charge of karaoke at Celebration.
I'm going to get, Leland G actually responded to my, I wrote a little thing about pretending we were going to have karaoke night at Celebration Orlando, and he actually responded with thumbs up. Maybe I'll text him, or not text him, but I'll send something to him Twitter-wise and see if he has any pull. Maybe we can get something going, like a little Weird Al Yankovic type of Star Wars karaoke for Celebration Chicago.
Podcast. Winner take all.
There you go.
Well, and you brought up some great ideas, Carl. And like, I'm bringing these out of the USW archives because these are songs I've named before. So as long as we're going to do that, I'm going to riff on Elton John. I'm going to riff on Elton John and go, "Hold Me Close, Tiny Phasma."
Tiny Phasma.
Tiny Phasma. Yeah.
Stand on a chair.
Exactly. And then this one actually got a little bit of legs last time, and so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do a recover of Phil Collins' Sussudio, but it be Zuvio. So I think with that three song lineup, I'm good. I'm good to go.
You're good. Hey, you could make it more modern. You could get Demi Lovato, Sorry, Not Sorry, but you could instead of Baby, Sorry, Not Sorry, you could have like Obi. It'd be like Anakin Darth Vader talking to Obi-Wan after he like cuts him down on the Death Star. Be like, Sorry, Not Sorry. So that'd be fun too.
I like it.
Because there's a line in there about there's a line in there about it's on fire and I know that it burns, and that's what happened to Anakin.
Right.
On the so
I think the challenge really, Eve, is going to be narrowing our set list down. But clearly this needs to happen. But what about Eve? What about you? What karaoke song will you be singing in the Mos Eisley Cantina?
All right, well, I'm not clever at all. Like
that's like me. I'm like, mine was so awful.
I wrote down The King of Wishful Thinking by Go West.
Wow.
That just reminds me of Pretty Woman.
Wow.
But Carl, pick something for me real fast. Something you haven't said, and I'll do it.
I'm out. I'm out of them.
You're not out. You got one.
I'm out. The Sound of Silence. I don't know.
There you go. Done.
Wow. That was an interesting.
That's a me and Bex duo.
Yeah. Woo. Well, listen. Last time it didn't work out. But we are all confirmed. Our entire team is confirmed to go. So let's just go on the record right now for listeners that we will not. We'll listen. I'm upping the ante. We will not only do karaoke at Celebration 2019 in Chicago, but we will live stream that sucker for folks that aren't able to be there. So we will bring our recording gear and we will live stream Barb singing Pointer Sisters.
I have a whole 10 months to revamp my choice.
I thought you were going to say practice your routine. That would be amazing.
I was given like 10 seconds to pick a song, and for some reason that came to my head.
Sisters.
I have no idea why, because I don't even like them. But
okay, I may stick with. Do you really want to hurt me?
Of course you would.
Do you really want to make me cry? I don't know what the rest of the lyrics are. I don't know the chorus.
Yes, you do.
I know. Pretend.
Stick around, Tauntauns. Our closer look is coming up right after this.
I'm going in closer to one of the big ones.
Closer? The closer I have than you.
A certain point of view.
Same thing I always do, talk my way out of it.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
I never ask that question until after I've done it.
You're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
All right, welcome back, Tauntauns, and we're going to jump into our closer look topic for the night. And again, this is part one of a 3-part series that we're going to try to conquer over the next couple of weeks, asking the overarching question, has Star Wars reached its breaking point? And I guess we might even need to dig down a little bit and talk about what breaking point means, and we can certainly do that. But this week, we're going to focus on what are the current Last Jedi Blu-ray sales numbers and fan toxicity that's hit the interwebs. What do they mean for the future of fandom, which is especially interesting since we were just talking about going to Chicago Celebration in about 11 months. So that'll be fascinating. We'll touch on that as well. So let's go ahead and break this down. Let's talk about this a little bit. I want to begin our talk talking about one of the articles that we'll include in our show notes about Last Jedi Blu-ray sales. As of right now, again, when we use The Force Awakens for a measuring stick on anything, numbers are going to pale in comparison. But right now, numbers are down compared to previous Blu-ray or DVD Star Wars releases under the Disney umbrella. I'm almost afraid to say this comment on air. Right now, the Blu-ray sales of The Last Jedi are roughly half of Despicable Me. I don't know how I feel about that. Minions outdoing Star Wars. So let's begin with this. Barb, you've already purchased Blu-ray DVD, yes?
Yes.
Eve?
The digital.
Okay, so you've got the digital version. And I'm going to come back and talk about that because that's an important part. Carl, did you purchase Blu-ray, DVD, or digital?
No.
Okay, and so let me start there then, because I haven't either. And it's not because I don't like the film. So I want to talk about your point of view on that, Carl. What's led into your decision of not purchasing Blu-ray, DVD, or even digital?
Well, I mean, mine's just been more of a financial thing. We used to buy a lot of movies, and then they kind of sit around, and you look. A lot of times, you look, and they're on, whether it be on your premium channels or the older ones being on TNT and stuff. And so a lot of times you can just kind of find them there. So I do want it. I do want to own it, but I just haven't had the time or the money to kind of just pull the trigger on that. So it's not that I don't like the movie, as you said. I don't love it. It's not one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and but it's not because but it didn't ruin my childhood. I didn't think it wasn't well made. I just and we all disagree on some of the choices that Rian Johnson made, but I still want to own it. But I just haven't, and I think there'll probably be versions down the road where it might there might be things where they put more stuff on there, or they package them where I can maybe get Solo and Rogue One and or all three of the new trilogy together, something like that. It might be a little cheaper and get them all at once, but that's kind of the thought process.
I'm with you. I think my rationale has been partially financially, because it's got to have a lot of not just repeat viewing value for me, but I've actually got to have the time to do the repeat viewings. But the other part of it is it's available in so many other places digitally, whether that's by legal means or not. But I just really quickly, as Carl, you were talking, I just searched. I went on the Google and searched, watch The Last Jedi free online, and came back with 26 million results. So I'm not in any way suggesting that you would want to go to those nefarious sites and download or even stream The Last Jedi. But I would think, and Eve, start to weigh in here, I would think that low sales, at least a fraction of that, is due to people have other ways of getting it now.
Yes, that's certainly yes, that is certainly something that is prevalent in the 2018 internet culture. I think it's very easy to find what you want for no money at all. And it was the same in 2015, so I don't know if that's solely the reason why the sales are down, or if it's a combination of everything, much like all the stuff we discussed last week. And Solo doing poorly at the box office. I think we have a watcher right now who's commenting about how he hasn't bought it because he doesn't want to own it because he didn't like it. So there are certainly, there are people out there who won't buy it because they didn't like it. And then there are people out there who they don't have the money right now, or they got it digitally, or they got it for free digitally. So it's there's a lot. And
I think that's an important thing to take, not just for this conversation, but anything that we talk about when it comes to any fraction of divisiveness in fandom or anything else. And that is, there is rarely in life, let alone in fandom, a one answer. It's black or white. There's not just one reason why sales may be low compared to Force Awakens. There's not just one reason Kelly Marie Tran got off social media. It's a variety of reasons and factors. I think the other reason for me, and Barb, then I want you to weigh in on this, is I just decided I can either buy these as they come, or I can wait for the ultimate 9-part collection that's going to give me, once, fingers crossed, Disney completes buying out Fox, and who knows, maybe they include as an extra feature the original cut of Star Wars, and we've got episodes 1 through 9 all in one nice, awesome box set. But Barb, you went out and you bought it, because I remember that when we announced it coming out and we were talking about buying it, and you ended up getting yours from...
The Last Jedi I got at Costco.
At Costco. Okay.
Force Awakens I got at Target because it had a cooler deal.
Okay. And so what goes into your process as far as, assuming finances are there, what goes into your process about, I want to buy this Star Wars film, or I'm not going to buy this for the personal collection?
Well, for me, it's a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy it.
Okay.
I want to own it.
Okay.
I want to, when I buy it, I get the version that's DVD, Blu-ray, and digital copy.
Right.
So that, and because it's Disney, I can upload those digital copies right into my Movies Anywhere app.
Right.
And have it wherever
you are.
And it's a deal now. Blu-rays are not as expensive as they used to be.
Yeah.
Especially when you're buying them at Target or Costco.
Right.
I think it was $22,
Yeah.
which, that's an expense. But I'm not, as Carl was saying, younger, I used to buy movies all the time.
Right.
We don't anymore.
Yeah.
We just don't buy movies because you have so many ways of watching them now. But when it comes to Star Wars, I want to own it.
Yeah.
So.
I think a lot of people are probably in that boat. It's I have it for the sake of having it because it's part of the collection. It's part of Star Wars. It's part of my, not just movie collection, but my Star Wars collection.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got Despicable Me topping The Last Jedi in Blu-ray sales. What other factors do you think, Eve, played into this when it comes to whether it's the film's acceptance by some of fandom? What other things do you think might be playing into this beyond just digital downloads, digital streaming, and for those who had just genuine and perhaps spot-on critical take on The Last Jedi?
I don't know if there are any reasons outside of that. I mean, my mind immediately when you said that it had sold half as much as Despicable Me.
Yeah.
I know, my family, my brother-in-law, he is very religious with buying his Blu-rays, the Tuesday they come out. We only buy certain Blu-rays that are special. Okay. So, like Star Wars and, if they ever did another Lord of the Rings or whatever, things like that. But when it comes to everything else, we're just like, we'll get it digitally because it's just sit down on the couch, boop, hit a button, and it's ours. Yeah. Now, with kids' movies, I do know a lot of people who, as adults, they buy the movies they love digitally, but they buy the hard copy for their kids. So it's, you're going to grandma and grandpa's house, take this movie with you in case you get bored so you can put something on.
Gotcha.
So that's the only other reason that I could see, because I know that happens with my niece a lot. Her grandparents buy her all the Blu-rays so she can travel with them. So, yeah.
So what I find interesting with this is that this is Blu-ray sales, and it does not include the amount of people that are actually purchasing the movie online just digitally.
Right.
So that causes the number to be skewed anyways.
I think that's part of it. I think that number will continue to accelerate while I'm guessing the hard copy media will probably decline over time. I mean, I can't imagine at some point we'll probably reach the point where we're no longer here I go with the we again, where DVDs, Blu-rays will probably not be produced, and it's certainly not produced in the quantity that they are now.
But I just find it interesting that they're not giving us numbers because the money is going towards Lucasfilm that they're selling digital copies of. So,
well, I think they covered that when they just said that normally it cuts it in, cuts it 10% is kind of what it's been doing on average lately. So doing half of what The Force Awakens did is, not, that's still not encompassing the other 40%. Right. But I think y'all are still probably on the right track. When we get those numbers, we may see, as Devin's saying, there was a time when we were buying CDs and stuff, and I'm looking at a bookshelf right now of VHS and DVDs, and that's another reason. I mean, I said finances. I could go get a copy if I just really wanted a copy that bad. But part of it is too, I've got all those, and I realized, one, the technology has gone out of date on some of these things, and two, I don't pull it off the shelf and watch it as much as I thought I would. And then that's my generation who's used to that and seeing technology change. And then the younger generation is just used to it not being, a hard copy. So I think a lot of that, and like you say, one day it'll just suddenly, and we might be right here in the middle of it, suddenly just drastically changing and they go on the way of the dodo bird.
Yeah, I think that definitely factors into my thinking at some point, because I was even looking, and I don't recall if it was a Last Jedi disc or not, but within the DVD selection or Blu-ray selection, there was even some that were in 4K, and I was like, wow, so do I just wait on that? Is that so? and I'm not interested in any of the 3D stuff, but Carl, I think you speak to a good percentage of consumers out there when it's like you just can't keep up with technology.
No.
Yeah.
But if you buy the digital version, you're usually going to have a copy that's suitable enough where you can watch it on your big screen at home. You can take it with you on your iPad or whatever device you happen to download your films to. The convenience factor is incredible.
Well, quick question. Do we have the numbers for digital sales?
I do not have numbers for digital sales, and those would be skewed even if we did have them, unless they came straight from Disney, because once again, those are you'd be tracking only genuine sales, not things that are downloaded elsewhere, and two, they would need to have some type of division between, are those strictly digital downloads or are those digital downloads that came with the physical media?
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, and so I'm sure that somebody behind the curtain at Disney has that on their spreadsheet, but that I wasn't able to find anything that nuanced researching for tonight's show. But yeah, there's so many different ways to look at it, though. So let me ask this question, and Carl, let me bring you in on this one. So to what extent do you believe that Blu-ray sales, and for that matter, we're just going to kind of use Blu-ray sales generic for movie sales after the movie leaves theater, so DVD, digital, 4K, whatever. To what extent do you think the film's Blu-ray sales actually will determine a film's acceptance, its success? To how much do you think that it's commenting on whether it is a loved film?
I would say the movie has already been a success in the theater, so it may not comment so much on success if you count dollar-wise, but acceptance, and as you say, that part of it, I think there's, again, as you said, it's not just one thing that's making this go down, and I think acceptance is part of it. To be that drastic from Despicable Me and The Force Awakens, I do believe that when you see a number that drastically different, you can say that yes, and you don't even have to look at that. This kind of is echoing what people have been doing on social media ever since the day the movie opened.
Right.
So I think it does factor in.
You okay, Carl?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I don't have a cough button. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
no.
I could leave right now. I can continue with that.
You get back here.
Okay. No, but I think it does show some factor of what the acceptance is, and that's why it is lower than other movies.
Yeah, I would think that has something to do with it. Although, and we'll kind of get into this, I'm curious as to what some of the fundamental differences consumers are seeing between this and other Star Wars films where sales have been much, much higher. For that matter, why Despicable Me is that much higher than a Star Wars film. There was a time where I would have put money down in Las Vegas if you would have said which is going to have greater Blu-ray sales, the Star Wars film or Despicable Me. I wouldn't even question that. I would have let it ride. Would have let it ride. All right, well, let's continue on with this, and let me kind of pivot just a little bit with this. It came out at the end of last week, and around the same time as these numbers were released, actually, that Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose Tico in The Last Jedi, is a lightning rod for all kinds of things. She's been a lightning rod for positivity and a lightning rod for diversity and representation. She's also been a lightning rod for folks who thought the character was a poor choice, perhaps because of how it was written. There's been others out there who have slighted the character because of the actress, because of her heritage. And the entire, I guess, scene with Canto Bight that she was included in with Finn is just, as some people have called it, just poor story writing to begin with. So a dichotomy of choices out there. But anyway, she announced that she was leaving social media because of all the attacks that she had personally received, which I can imagine. Daisy Ridley did that not too long before or after The Force Awakens. So I get it. There's people that have too much time on their hands or don't know how to have a civil discussion, and things go sideways really quickly. This is actually from an article that is entitled "Toxic Fandom is Killing Star Wars," and that's actually, The Hollywood Reporter just released that the last day or two. And let me read you a couple of quotes from the article. The article, as most of their articles are pretty good. I felt that he kind of cut the article short, though. I felt that maybe there could have been some more depth with that. But let me read this first quote, and then I'm going to ask you all if you agree or disagree with it. Here we go. fandom has always been an us versus them proposition. In the early days, it was because you loved something that the world at large found silly, be it comic books or Doctor Who. It was you and those who felt like you against everyone else. Star Wars refined fandom because it built a bigger tent than had ever existed before. Suddenly, the quote-unquote everyone else also loved Star Wars. Your mom knew what the Force was. Mark Hamill was on The Tonight Show. There was Yoda underwear. It was the real fan. Excuse me. It was the first real fan thing that exploded into a phenomenon. But fandom always needs a them. Carl, agree or disagree with that insight?
I agree.
Tell me why.
I think that, especially when you start going into the prequels and all these other movies.
Yeah.
And everybody, at first nobody had a problem with the prequels, and people kind of sort of needed to say, I don't know, there's just something about people wanting to be different and not go along with the crowd. It's like, and so what one group could do was say, it's not like it was when I was a kid, and start tearing it down from that. It's not what I expected, not what I wanted. And that just leads to tearing it down. And so and then people start jumping on. I mean, it was, because when it was released, I don't remember hearing a lot of problems with the Phantom Menace. The only criticism I probably heard was, well, it's just a lot like A New Hope. But nobody said, but then people said the same thing about The Force Awakens too, and people love that, and it's outsold all these other movies. And 5 years from now, people are going to go, no, you know what, that's not a good movie, and start picking it apart. So people like to sort of be a malcontent, like to be the first one out there, the front runner. It's easier to be negative than be positive. And then a lot of people sometimes just follow, like, maybe I didn't see it right, and they kind of follow along. So, but yeah, they were looking for something to be different, to set apart from just being, well, if everybody loves Star Wars and everybody loves the Phantom Menace, I'm going to find something different about it to say why it's not as good as the originals.
Well put. Let me follow up, though, because one of the things that really struck a chord with me, having been part of that older generation of fans, and that is when the author talks about, in the early days, it was because you loved something that the world at large found silly. And I think for me personally, there was even part of culture that I grew up in that still found it silly beyond like those grade school years. You get into middle school, high school, and beyond, and you're just like, wow, you still watch Star Wars. and so I'm curious. It's kind of like, I'll equate it to this. I have proudly been a Apple Mac guy for years. And when the iPod came out, the old click-wheel iPod, all of a sudden, Apple started to become mainstream. And then for me and for others like myself, that like Apple was always so cool. And it started to become so mainstream that it kind of wavered a little bit on its acceptance factor to some extent. Now, look, they're selling bajillions of iPhones, iPads, and Macs and all that stuff. They still do a nice job with design and all that stuff. Point of this little story, though, is that what was once kind of a niche is now commonplace. And so, Carl, do you think, kind of under that lens, do you think that Star Wars has kind of reached that point right now as well? It's almost this, well, everybody does know. Your mom does know about the Force. Mark Hamill is on The Tonight Show or whatever show. It's become so mainstream that it's by no fault of good writing, bad writing. It's just less special.
Well, I kind of disagree with that part a little, just because, I mean, from the first month Star Wars came out, it went from 0 to 100, in 60 seconds. It wasn't known, but by the time it was, everybody was on board. It was everywhere. My mom knew about it by the time we got to Return of the Jedi at least. I would say it probably by Return of the Jedi got to that point. Like, we dragged her, made her make us take it to the first one, Empire Strikes Back. And then when I was old enough to go with my friends, by the time Return of the Jedi go out, she's going with my dad on their own. So yes, but that didn't make it less cool then. So I don't think that's it as much as sometimes people want to be the trendsetter. Like, you want to be the first person to have discovered this band, or you want to listen to this kind of music. and you're cool. It's good because not everybody likes it. I think a lot of people equate quality with not being mass produced or well liked by the majority. And so when it gets to that point, some people just automatically, it's like, well, if it got to that point, it's not good. They don't look at it and think whether they think it's good or not. It's just like, here's the standard. Too many people like it, so I'm going to move on to something that's less well known, because quality is in what, the small amount of people really know what good quality is.
I like that. That you bring up some really good points there. Eve, let me come to you on this. Do you agree or disagree with the author's statement here?
I agree. I think it just comes down to a balance. I know he kind of put that negative vibe to it, and everything in the Star Wars fandom right now has that kind of negative shadow cloud looming over it. But there is an us versus them. And I certainly remember feeling that growing up, and even still to this day sometimes, because when I'm out with certain, groups of people and some of my girlfriends who are not into any of the nerdy things that I do, I have to kind of act a little bit of a different way, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And I definitely have that feeling of, oh gosh, it definitely is a me versus you right now. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just, this is our culture, and people they have their own thing. Like, my best friend is very materialistic, but she also has an amazing heart. So, if she didn't have the heart, I'd be like, peace out. But whenever her and I are together, I'll talk about the podcast, and she's just like, oh yeah, that's great. Come on, we're going to go shopping. I'm just like, okay. Yeah. So that's the end of that. But one of the comments, one of the watchers right now, he said it's difficult when there's an us versus them in the same fandom. And I think I want to redirect a little bit to that, because I completely agree. Because now we all love this one thing, but this person hates that thing that I still love. So that balance, I think, is lost right now. And it's a little sad. It's like us versus them versus us.
Well, and I think that a couple things have happened. One, we're the ultimate large dysfunctional family right now. And this is our Thanksgiving dinner where people haven't seen each other for a long time. We're all just sounding off. And social media, for better or for worse, and it's who uses it, but it's like we have weaponized fans. We've given everybody a megaphone and a platform. And that can be used one of several different ways. Barb, when it comes to this particular quote from the article, do you tend to agree with the author's point of view, or do you tend to say, yeah, there are shades of it that I find compelling or that I agree with, but yet I want to clarify some statements?
Yes, I agree with it, but like you said, I want to clarify some, and I think both Carl and Eve have done a good job of that, and pointing out certain things about it. As Carl said, it went from 0 to 100. I don't think there are many people in Western culture that don't know what Star Wars is, and there's several levels of fandom, and I think, as Eve was saying, there's people that are kind of clashing views, even though they're both fans, but some might not like The Last Jedi and stick only to the original trilogy, and some might love The Last Jedi, and then it's causing divisiveness amongst fans, which is the us versus them. Yeah. Whereas before it was, you're a fan of Star Wars or you're not. And now there's just so many different avenues of that. And I'm finding that hard as Star Wars is becoming bigger and bigger and expanding. We've got younger fans who are loving it, and then you've got the older fans. It seems sometimes, as you were pointing out, there's this you loved Apple when it was unique and cool. Yeah. And for some reason, I feel like some of the bad things that are being said about the new Star Wars are those people that loved it when it was unique and cool and just them. But now that it's become this huge thing, they don't like that completely, and they don't like that Star Wars is changing what it was for them. And there's no problem saying that you might not like something. It's just when that turns to hatred and just everything that we've been seeing, that I have to be careful what I say about that we've been seeing this last week and the last few years about Star Wars, and people just lashing out because they've been given this megaphone to be able to do that. And why? You know, you're causing divisiveness even amongst fans.
Right.
So I agree with his statement. There's so many aspects to it that we could spend all day on.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, Barb, but well done. And I think that you're right. A couple things that I'll just touch on that you brought up, and that is, it is so multifaceted. There's so many different little nuances there. And I think that it's disappointing. It's sad. The fact that people are trying to out-yell one another, or whether it was a good film or a bad film, or whether childhoods were wrecked or not. Look, I think, honestly, like, one of the problems we get into as Star Wars fans, and that is ranking the films. I think if that's done in the spirit of funness, just to have comparative notes, like, well, what's your number one? Or what's in the last of your list, or whatever else, that's great. But when we start talking about, you know, I'm not even counting this as canon, or things like that, then, okay. You know,
it just gets out of hand.
Right, right.
You know, there was somebody who tweeted something, and it was totally out of humor, and all he did was put every Star Wars movie in order of release date.
Right.
And
that was the best.
Comments. It's just insane what people are doing with Star Wars.
That was such an entertaining thread, though, I have to say.
Oh gosh,
because it was titled something like the definitive list of Star Wars films.
I don't think he even titled it.
Yeah, and it was just like boom, boom, boom,
oh,
boom.
Gosh,
it was great. It was great.
Maybe he did, but that's just, it's causing so many people to get fired up.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned something else about something that had related to childhood. And so let me read another quote by the author in the same article. And this is what the author writes. And then, Barb, I'm going to come straight back to you on this. What is Star Wars fandom against? The author asks. Turns out the answer is itself. Or rather, the realization that Star Wars is and always has been, hope you're sitting down, listeners, for children. And they aren't children anymore. Star Wars fans, I count myself among them, says the author, look to the original trilogy as the anchor of youth. I agree with that. They want anything Star Wars to make them feel the way they did when they saw it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, roll across the screen 40 years ago. So, Barb, do you think, I don't want to ask, is that part of the problem or not, but to what extent do you think that some folks in fandom are struggling with that? And maybe they don't realize it as that. Maybe they can't yet admit that it's that. But if you had to kind of put a loose percentage on it, to what degree do you think that there is a percentage of fandom that is struggling with I don't have the same feels as when I was 5 in the theater?
I think it's huge. Absolutely. Especially for those people that did grow up, you know, as Carl said, going to the theater and seeing the trilogy. I was 4 or 5 when I saw Return of the Jedi, so I might not be a true fan either. But I mean, look at it. Look at this late 70s and the 80s. The movies were for kids. The toys were for kids. The advertising was for kids. You know, getting your cups from McDonald's and all of that. It was geared towards kids, yet adults enjoyed it.
Sure.
It was a good story. And so, you know, fast forward 15 years-ish to when the prequels come out, and all of those fans that grew up with it are so excited because, you know, we had the re-release of the original trilogy to vamp up for the prequels. So excited. And then the prequels come out. Does it give us those feels? Does it, or, you know, then you've got these people that are older and more mature and they're like, well, I didn't like Jar Jar Binks. And I'm like, well, the 5-year-old who went and saw it loved him. Right. You know, so who is the movie for now? Because you're having movies in a series now grabbing audiences that loved it as kids that are adults now. Yeah. But there's kids out there that want to love it. Yeah. And then again, fast forward 20 years and or whatever the time frame is, and we've got it coming out again. Right. And so the fans that grew up with it going to theaters are in their 40s-ish. Right. Do they want to feel like a kid again? Do they want a movie that's going to win an Oscar? You know, what is it that they're looking for, and what is it that makes them angry that they're not getting?
Right.
Because I don't know many kids who've seen Star Wars, the last two, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, that don't like it. I don't know any kid under the age of 15 that don't love them.
Right, right.
So that says something about this quote.
No, I think that brings up some great points. And I will fully confess for my Star Wars confession of the week that the original Star Wars, for all the feels that it gives me right now, it doesn't give me the same feels as when I saw it at 5. Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a crusty, cynical old man now, and Star Wars is the only thing that keeps me in balance and not completely lashing out and, you know, going postal on the world. But I like it, like even Star Wars, because like we have this thing called growing up, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term. It's just like life happens, and we don't have our food pureed for us anymore, right? We're able to digest food ourselves without having it chewed for us. And so I think as a viewer becomes older, it becomes so tough to go in with the mindset of a 5, 6, 12, 13-year-old. Even if you are trying to do that. And like I really, 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 really tried to do that with Solo. And I had a fantastic time. But at the same time, you know, the film critic in me is going, oh, interesting shot with the lighting there. An interesting choice with that dialogue. And so for me, I can't divorce the two. They've somehow meshed. It's kind of like, and sorry to cross universes here, but like Star Trek and the Borg, it's just the Borg is just kind of, the adult has just kind of consumed the child in me to a very good degree. But Eve, jump in here with this. What are your thoughts on this particular quote from the author?
So I had to write down a lot of my thoughts today because there were just so many. This is such a big topic. Because I'm not a real fan, and I was born in 1983.
Oh my gosh.
First of all,
how did you
know, 3 months? I know.
You barely made the cut.
I quit.
You would have been born January 84. You wouldn't be on this podcast.
That's cold. That's cold. But I think for me, I didn't have that theater experience. I mean, I did when they re-released them in the 20 years later, but it wasn't. I had seen them by that point 1,000 times on my couch. So my initial thought to this was, I don't want to recreate anything. I don't want to recreate that feeling. I want it to be an echo. I want it to be a whisper. I want it to make me remember. I don't want to be taken back to a 5-year-old me, because I'm 34 years old. I do not want to be 5 years old again. I want to enjoy this with all of the life experience that I have had between the first time I saw this and now. And for me, it is paying off exponentially, personally. I'm growing up, and these films are growing up with me. That's all I need. If they, and I hate to veer off topic real fast, but for an example, the other thing that I loved as a child was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And when they re-released not even re-released, when they remade the movies again, the first one was really good. And then the second one, they just dumbed it down. Like 2 and 3-year-olds were watching it. And I was like, I'm out. Like, it didn't give me that imitation or that remembering or recall or recollection. It was just, we're going to throw out everything that came before.
Yeah.
And hope that you like it. But we actually don't care. And Star Wars is not doing that for me.
I love how you said that, you know, the films grew with you. I think that that shouldn't be lost on any of us, regardless of how we feel about any of one of the new films that have come out under the Disney umbrella. I think that it's important to think that. I mean, I don't know any person personally that views any film, but we'll just talk Star Wars films, but that views any Star Wars film the same way they saw it the first time.
Well, that's what's amazing about Star Wars, is that it changes as you grow, and it had that for me. As I grew and matured and kept watching it, I understood more of not only what was going on, but more depth to it. That, you know, it led me in my 20s to write a thesis about the underlying depth of what Star Wars is talking about. And I know Jeremy has even said, you know, as a kid, who his favorite character was, and how that's changed and morphed as he's grown into an adult and watches it. So we're always going to have a different lens as we watch things from childhood to adulthood.
Right. Absolutely. That's the hope anyway. Carl, weigh in. What are your thoughts on this quote from the author?
I totally agree with it. And, kind of the shame about it, though, is, we've all talked about growing up with it or, not being children anymore. But at some point, I think it's good, and I try to do, it's also good to kind of go back to that, try to go back to feeling that innocence or that naivete that you had when you were younger, because the world is so jaded and harsh as it is. And we've, like you said, you become a grizzled, older adult now, and you've seen things. But, sometimes it's okay to let yourself go back and say, I'm just going to look at this through the eyes of a child, or just, I'm going to not think about all the bad problems we have in the world right now, and I'm just going to escape here for a little while. Because, you can watch things aimed at children and be an adult and still, enjoy them. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I try to do. I think a lot of people don't want to be taken like they're a sucker or that they've been fooled or whatever. Yeah. And so they put that hard shell on, and it's like, well, it's, that's not realistic or that's not tough enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to go see hard-edged science fiction, go watch Blade Runner, go watch Aliens. I mean, you can watch, there's movies that are out there, and they're good, and I enjoy watching those sometimes. But sometimes I want to, not feel so down about stuff. And so, I like, I'll watch Meet the Robinsons. I love that movie. It's an animated movie for kids. I cry at the end of it all the time. I don't care. I'll let you know that. But anyway, you can, see those things and enjoy them for what they are. If they're done well, and he talked about some that are, some can be just made dumbly because, that's all you got to do sometimes to entertain a child. But some are done and kids will like them, but they actually have quality. And then an adult can look at it and go, you know what, that's good. That's a good movie or a good program.
Well said. So let's once again let's pivot a little bit. We're going to stay on this course, but just pivot just a little bit. And I want to take a closer look at what's going on specifically with Kelly Marie Tran and social media. And I guess we can explode it out a little bit, and it can be not just Kelly Marie Tran, even though we'll talk about her, but it'll be more so just fan interactions with actors, creators, basically, directors, producers, story writers, all the above. So as I mentioned at the top of this segment, that Kelly Marie Tran has decided to leave social media. Now, listen, here we have mixed signals already. So this is fascinating. We're somewhere between why Kelly Marie Tran left social media and who shot JFK. We've got Star Wars conspiracy theorists hard at work over this stuff. So one version of the story that's out there, which I'm sure you are probably aware of at this point, is that Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose Tico in The Last Jedi, was bombarded with all kinds of misogynistic, with all kinds of racist, with all kinds of horrible abuses on social media. Some folks have said that, well, she may have been, but that was just a group that was created by Disney to create a false flag to throw us off the scent of the fact that The Last Jedi is just a bad movie. There's also, because we can't have it just that easy. There's also a group that said that it was created and they're going to attempt to overthrow all of Disney Star Wars, and they want to start getting as many women and persons of color out of the off the screen as possible. So with that in mind, we'll let you kind of weed through the evidence yourself. There's people actually out there that says that there's no evidence that says Kelly Marie Tran received any form of abuse on Twitter. But again, if you want to do the searching, you can find stuff out there on the interwebs. So let me start with this. This article is actually a fantastic title, and I want to make sure I read it correctly. And that is Pro Straight White Male Hero Group Behind Star Wars Actor Abuse. Okay, let's just get that out of the gate. That the belief is that they have discovered the identity of the persons behind this, and they happen to be pro-straight white men. Let's take that at face value. We'll say, for the sake of this discussion, that is accurate. Carl, as a pro-straight white man,
I'm not an amateur. I am a pro straight white man.
What are your thoughts on this? When you see that people that have the same or similar demographic as you are potentially the ones that are causing this madness in fandom right now?
It's a little sad. It's disheartening. I believe she's got, whether or not it's 100% all, genuine hate for Kelly Marie Tran and women in general. I believe there's enough of it out there. I mean, I'm a white guy living in the South. We don't have meetings. I haven't heard anything. No one's told me we're getting together and doing this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't hear a lot of guys talking that way. At the same time, I know that there are people who feel that way, and I probably don't hear it as much as the people who are the objects of the hatred a lot of times too. So, I believe it's genuine, in probably a large part, if not all, and that it's just, I don't understand it. I just don't.
Mm. Yeah, fair enough. I don't understand it either. I think that one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, like fandom has been weaponized, right? Mm-hmm. We shouldn't be too proud of this technological tear that's been constructed. At the same time, it becomes so easy to be a keyboard assassin. And I think that I get this from a standpoint of being a professional educator. And I hear kids all the time talk about which teachers they like, which teachers they don't like. And I've had conversations very frank with them and saying, like, I hope that you understand, like, we're not television personality characters, right? Like, we're actual people. So when you say you don't like this teacher or you really like that teacher, like, those are actual real people that they like. It's crazy. They go to the grocery store and everything. It's crazy. And and like, that was actually eye-opening for some students to think about that with that lens. Mm-hmm. And so it's terrible. It's there's no way that it is excusable in the slightest that, one, that the abuse is going on, two, that the abuse is happening because there is an inability for people to disassociate actor from character. That's mind-blowing to me. But nonetheless, this is one thing that was found on the line on Twitter I'm not going to give them any props. I'm not going to tell you which account said it, but this is the account that is taking credit for it. And then, Eve, I'm going to come to you after that. This is what the account reads. Okay, it's time to come clean. I, along with many others, some of whom I inspired, helped force Kelly Marie Tran from Instagram, and it was bloody glorious. In the 6 months since The Last Jedi, hell, even the last 4 to 6 years of this perversion of a canon, it warmed my heart to see the true fans, there we go, the true fans, rise up against Kathleen Kennedy and her feminazi agenda in the form of her soldiers like Pablo Hidalgo, Daisy Ridley, and now Kelly Marie Tran. Each and every one of you are the true Rebel Alliance. What started out as a small group within the Alliance to preserve the expanded universe has grown into so much, much more. Ever since the good old days of rating the comments of Star Wars books from 2014 and orchestrating the spoiler jihad of 2015, and recently the bot attack on Rotten Tomatoes of 2017 by yours truly, and now the war against Kathleen Kennedy and her feminist soldiers, never could I imagine seeing groups across all forms of social media that agreed with the example and ideals we've set those years ago and ultimately want the same thing. This really warms my heart. It really does. The author of this tweet closes with, now go on out there and fight for Legends restoration. Go out there and reverse this forced diversity. Go out there and show them what real Star Wars fans look like. Bring back the straight white male hero that isn't manufactured by a corrupt corporation like Disney. If we weren't live right now, I just kind of want to throw up right now.
Right?
There's so many things wrong with this. I would need a series of podcasts just to start to dissect this particular tweet. But Eve, I said I was going to come to you, so I'm going to come to you with this.
Yeah.
When you hear things like this, and I know you've read this in our show notes beforehand, and I know that you've read other things out there that are similar, what goes on in your mind as a woman, first off, not just a Star Wars fan, but as a woman when you hear things like this?
All right, it's late. I will edit this out, but they can go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
I can't. That is it is abhorrent behavior of grown. I'm assuming they're grown. They could be children, but I doubt it. first of all, it reads like a terrorist statement. And these are the things that we have seen on CNN about, this terrorist group has claimed responsibility for such and such attack. These are human beings. And so are they. They are with this. Oh my God, I'm so frazzled right now. It's unbelievable. It's maddening. And it's something that I am struggling with immensely, trying to remain positive and level-headed. I'm sweating right now. None of you can see me, thank God, but I'm sweating because of how ridiculous this kind of mindset is, and that it even exists, and the level of entitlement and gross. It's gross. It's gross, scary male behavior. And I'm a woman that doesn't really push we need women every second of the day to do everything. I would love to see that happen, but you all know my stance on that. This is unacceptable.
Do you, Eva, want to ask you, and then Barbara, I want to come to you with this question. And I want, I expect both of you to give the honest answer here. And that is, here's the question. When you see things, read things like this, and you hear things like feminist agenda, feminazi, things like that, Eve, do you, I guess, does that make you in any way feel that it's hard to be a Star Wars fan when that there are other people that are in fandom that don't want you to have the heroes and heroines that you deserve to have?
I hate the words. Does it make it hard for me? Absolutely not, because I am a fan. I'm not going anywhere. And great. I will sit down with them and we can go tete-a-tete for trivia. We can talk about books. We can talk about movies. I'm not the type of person that you want to roll with that kind of language. And it's just maddening to me that I read that statement 2 or 3 times, and I want to say who wrote that.
Yeah,
badly.
Well, we're not. I mean, it's out there.
But I'm not.
Search it, but
I'm not.
And I thank you for correcting kind of my perspective on that as well. I of course, we should all be upset about this. But Barb, let me ask you: when you hear things like this, and they're attacking your as a Star Wars fan, and then as a woman, they're attacking your right to have heroines on screen. Whether that's Leia, whether it's Ahsoka, whomever it is. And so what is your response to that? What are the things that when you hear that, what goes on internally?
Oh gosh, you asked 2 different questions, it seems. What goes on internally, I don't really want to share.
Well, let's just start there, because honestly, I think it's important that we get an unfiltered view of that.
It angers me.
Yeah.
It absolutely angers me. These are movies that are well done. This is a story that we love, and these people have to go and just put so much hatred into a thing that we love and we enjoy. And it makes me sick. It makes me want to say things that I would not normally say.
Yes.
And the fact that we're talking about something that I love, and they're causing me to want to say bad things about what they're saying about the thing that I love.
Yeah.
I'm like, go F yourselves. If you don't like it, go away.
Yeah.
Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to hurt people? These are real people that you are hurting. And the way that social media has become so in your face with even the creators and causing hurt in their lives.
Right.
Like, this is not okay. You can be critical. You can say, I didn't like it. You can say, your reasons for not liking it.
Sure.
But attacking people, attacking the creators, and then saying that it should be male focused, get rid of all of the feminism, heroism, heroines. It's beyond my thought process. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And then, so what I want to do is say, go away. I want to enjoy this, and let's stick to the positivity. And I'm not just trying to be positive about something that wasn't good. I loved The Force Awakens. I loved The Last Jedi. And Solo was amazing. I love these movies, and I was thrilled that Disney took over and that Kathleen Kennedy is in charge.
Yeah.
Is that because I'm a woman? I don't know. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't really care if it's a man, a woman, where you're from, what color you are. You're doing a great job, and keep it up. And for those people that have been hurt by it, I am so sorry. I feel there's part of me that feels a little responsible for those fans out there that are awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you bring up a great point, though, and that goes to like the larger sociology part of this is, please don't blame all Star Wars fans for the acts of some Star Wars fans.
Oh yeah,
right?
I'm in a lot of those camps with a lot of different things.
Yeah, and you bring up so many great points, and thank you for sharing just very organic, unfiltered version. And so, no, honestly, because I know that it's something that I think all of us that are part of the USW team take seriously. You brought up whether Kathleen Kennedy was in charge or not, and I'd be so curious if we had the same movies but a different point person that happened to have, who happened to be male. I'm wondering if the backlash would be anything close to what it is now.
I really don't want her to go. You know, she had so much backing and endorsement from George Lucas,
right?
And in the interviews that the way she's conducted herself, the way that she's done the things that she's done, I applaud her. And these movies are big.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, we're comparing millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and there's so many movies out there that don't even make close to that.
Right.
And yet we're saying Solo was a failure,
right.
Yet Ron Howard said it was the best opening he's ever had for one of his movies. So let's take this into perspective and look at how good a job Kathleen Kennedy is doing.
Yeah.
Let's not nitpick the little things.
Yeah, which is a great point. We're going to actually talk about that in this series. Carl, I'm going to bring it back to you. And one of the things I want to ask you when it comes to this is, when we take a look and we hear from our team members on the show, how big of a percentage do you think makes up Star Wars fandom? Do you think that this is a classic example of minority barking really loud, but they really don't make up that big a part of fandom? And I'm not talking about the people that critically have problems with The Last Jedi or any of the Disney-related Star Wars films, but I'm talking people that are intentionally attacking, being racist, being misogynist, whatever-ist they want to be.
Yeah, I would say that it is a small minority, because when you go, and I only went to the one celebration in Orlando, you've been to a couple. When you go to places like that and there's a lot of people there, and there was so much positivity, everybody you talked to, we talked to several people, it was a great place just to meet people, that, because there's so many lines and you get to wait. So you're going to meet your friends and neighbors and stuff. But that actually is a good part of it. You think, oh, like waiting in line, but you start talking to people about Star Wars and where they're from and different things. And all of them want to be positive, I would say a vast majority. So, you see that kind of thing going on. And so I do think it is people that, to a degree, I think it probably is even some people who don't even like Star Wars, just trying to get in there just to mess it up. Right. I mean, I do believe there's going to be some slither of the pie that is people who really do think they love Star Wars and are also racist and misogynistic and all that other stuff. And so it gets there and they're combined and they just let it loose on social media. But, but when I meet people and talk to people, and I can't find those people. So they're either hiding it or it's just when they're on social media and it's a small number.
Right. Yeah, and I think that I'm hoping that's the case. You bring up a great point, which we'll talk about within this series, and that is what's going to happen come Chicago and Celebration. That's going to be interesting if we're all singing Kumbaya or if it's going to be celebrity deathmatch. One of the things you brought up, Barb, though, as far as, you saying like, go away, like you don't want to see Ahsoka, you don't want to see Leia, like go away. And what crossed my mind when you said that was, it was actually just recently when they changed it before they went out of business, but Toys R Us used to have like part of the store for girls, part of the store for boys, and it was labeled as such. And I'm fascinated to know, I wonder if some of those people that are preaching this hate if they would actually just give me my Star Wars for boys films. If you want Star Wars for girls films, just label them as such, and you can go watch those. I'd be curious if like they would find that appealing.
That it sounds ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous.
It is. They're not boy movies. They're not girl movies.
Yeah.
They're movies that we all can enjoy for different reasons.
I agree.
And appeal to all of us, and I love that. And if you don't like that they appeal to all of us, not go away, but why do you have to?
No, go away's fine. Go away's fine.
Yes, it is.
Go far away.
Yeah, it was made for all of us.
Yeah.
And it appeals to all of us, and I love that about Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. Eve, let me ask you, when it comes to the social media end of things and how the assaults have been on Rian Johnson and Kelly Marie Tran and Kathleen Kennedy, how might this abusive social media behavior actually influence other actors, directors, creative types, whether or not they actually join a Star Wars cast or writers group or production group or directing group?
I don't think that it'll have, I hope it doesn't have as big of an impact as these people are hoping it does. I think somebody actually had posted a tweet saying, notice how Daisy Ridley and Kelly Marie Tran were driven off social media, but not Mark Hamill, not Rian Johnson, not John Boyega. Seems like there's almost a pattern here. So if there's any wariness, it would definitely be from a female perspective. But from the female perspective, if I ever got a phone call from Kathleen Kennedy asking me to be at the forefront of a Star Wars film, there would not be a bone of hesitation in my body in accepting that job.
Yeah.
So, I mean, haters be damned at that point.
Yeah, and I think that, look, I imagine if you live your life in the public eye, like these folks do, long before Star Wars came around and knocked on their door, that there's a certain part of being a Hollywood type, whether that's actor, writer, director, producer, that you've got some pretty thick skin. It doesn't mean that you should accept the abuse or that the abuse is okay, but it means that part of the unwritten job description is that you know that you're going to have your share of things hurled in your direction. And so, again, that's not an excuse by any stretch of the imagination, but hopefully that they have steeled themselves for that. Carl, I'm going to come to you because guess what? Kathleen Kennedy, Kelly Marie Tran, and Rian Johnson were not the first target of people hating on Star Wars, but after the prequels wrapped up, George Lucas actually said in an interview with the New York Times in January of 2012, this is his quote, "Why would I make any more Star Wars movies when everyone yells at you all the time and says what a terrible person you are?" That's his quote. The guy who brought us Star Wars to begin with. Is nothing sacred, Carl?
Nothing is sacred. Nothing at all.
Don't they know that he was a white man?
They didn't get the memo.
But seriously, in all seriousness, like what does that say about fandom when it comes to we're literally willing to attack the person that brought us the goods to begin with?
Yeah, it's a little, nuts. I mean, people just, and I think we even saw on Twitter like Daniel Jose Older, who wrote Last Shot. And how some people tweeted to him, this isn't canon or whatever. And he, said some sarcastic stuff and it was funny and it was good. But it's just that it's become so big but everybody thinks they own it individually, and they think that it's going to be their way. And it cannot possibly be hundreds of millions or billion people worth of ideas. They're not going to all be the same. So, it's okay to want to have something, desire something, think this might be a cool way to go, but you gotta let somebody. It's like you can't just not like it because somebody took it a direction you didn't want it to go. I mean, it can't be. Again, we've talked about there are legitimate criticisms you might have about a movie or whether or not you'd like it, but when you go in automatically, well, it didn't do what I wanted to do. It's no good. And I don't know why it turned into that, how it got to be that way. I maybe maybe that was just that problem of having that big giant void of time between movies, is that's what people did, and it grew and grew, and people just kind of came up with their own stories and thought what they wanted to see happen. And so, if we had maybe had a steady diet of it, we probably just would have gone along with it. But it's just not going to be that way. So, George Lucas, you might have legitimate things you didn't like about his movies, but to me, they're all still, he's again, as we talked about earlier, he's done it towards kids, aiming it towards kids. I enjoyed the prequels. There's a lot of, even the ones people don't like or they talk bad about. The great thing that he did was he knew what the good elements of the story was. He collaborated with. He didn't just settle for the hot topic person of the day. He went with like John Williams doing a more, a more classical score instead of something that sounded like the 70s. The Ralph McQuarrie pictures. He had great people doing amazing work, like with those test drawings for characters and things. As he put all that together, that's probably his greatest strength. He found very talented people to get his vision where he wanted it to go. And regardless of what you might not like about how the dialogue sounded here or this character there, those are very cool movies to sit through here and look at, and they take you on a good adventure. And if you're looking for more than that, then maybe you're just being too picky with it, I think.
Well said. Let me wrap up this part of our segment with this question. And Barb, I'm going to come to you, and then Eve, I'll come to you after that. But here's my question: if George Lucas hadn't received the pushback that he did about the prequels, right? If they were widely acclaimed, or at least majority acclaimed, fans loved them. If he didn't receive the pushback he got from the prequels, do you think that he would have actually given us the sequels that so many fans believe that we deserve, quote unquote deserve?
That would be really interesting. And I think maybe if he didn't have that pushback, I think by the time he sold it to Disney, he was done. Yeah. And that quote that I read that he said about why would I do this when everybody just yells at you, I was so sad by that. This is the creator of the universe that we love, and people hate what he's putting out. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Right. I mean, we don't have to love the prequels, but this is George Lucas. I mean, it's Lucasfilm. Give him a break. And it'd be really interesting to see what stories he would have done.
Yeah, and I would be fascinated. There's no way to ever quantify it, but I'd be fascinated to know what the reception would be if it was something that George Lucas had given us, but it didn't square with what people believed either as good writing, good directing, good story, whatever. I just curiosity. Eve, final thoughts when it comes to that? If George Lucas didn't receive pushback on the prequels, do you think that he would have given us the sequels that so many fans believe that we deserve?
I feel like that's a load. I know we're trying to wrap it up. It implies that the sequels we have, we don't deserve.
Well, I think it goes more to the point that he got so much pushback from the prequels, right? It's not whether we think the prequels are good, bad, or none of the above. It's he received so much pushback from the prequels that he said, deuces, I'm out, right? But if he didn't receive that and we said, oh, bravo, Darth Maul is alive through all three, and this is great, and so on and so on. Do you think that had he not sold to Disney, that what we're in right now, we would be getting and enjoying the sequels that so many in fandom think like, those are what we should have gotten? None of this feminazi stuff.
I hate that word. I hate that word.
So do I want to take a stance, but I just don't like that question.
Okay, well that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if he didn't get the pushback and he made the sequels, he still would have got pushback. So there's no win-win for George Lucas or fans. I don't think so.
You have to wonder, and Barb, you touched on this, but you have to wonder, like, from his perspective, and I know George is a big boy, right? He's great at ignoring mythology that is talked about in there. And so if you have kids in the car right now, cover their ears or mute. But the balls to talk to George Lucas like that, to just say like, No, man, that wasn't good. That was not good. I don't know. Like I have grown to appreciate the prequels. Where I'm actually at a point where I'm like, I think I'll watch Phantom Menace. That's my favorite prequel, and I'm just like, I think I need a little Theed in my life. Just need a little Theed in my life. And there's just something just so tranquil about Theed. But how dare I go like, really? Gungans? That's the best you got, George? Gungans? Come on. Come on. Oh, my gosh. Stick around, Tauntauns. We'll be back to wrap stuff up right after this.
We're not done yet.
Wrap it up.
All right, Eve, as we begin to land the shuttle this week, tell the folks what's on the calendar.
Yes, well, as everybody knows, you can catch us every Monday night live on Twitter and YouTube, starting from 7:15 Pacific time, which is 10:15 Eastern, and waving to Neil, who's been with us all night, 3:15 a.m. Yes, he UK time. Of course. So just in case you ever miss us, fear not. You can find us on unmistakably.starwars.com. The video will be up in a day or two, or also on YouTube by just searching Unmistakably Star Wars, and it will be there. Next, last week we announced for our Patreon giveaway a wonderful limited edition print to one of our patrons, but we also have another one coming at the end of the month, which is, yes, the Audible audiobook Patron of the Month giveaway. And this month's choice is Most Wanted by Ray Carson, which is a Han and Kira and a couple other awesome characters mixed in there, You will not want to miss it. It's pretty awesome. So if you want to be in the running, sign up to be a patron, and you can do that by going to unmistakablyStarWars.com/Patreon.
Hey, Eve, and with that, like, you don't have to get to a certain patron level. Like, you can become a patron for $2 a month, $5. Like, you don't have to like make any minimum bar to be eligible to win that. Is that right?
That is correct.
Excellent. And if I'm not mistaken, you and Carl's, am I correct on this? Carl, you and Eve are going to be actually doing a Force Discourse, taking a little closer look at that book?
Yeah, we're going to record in a couple days, and it should be out probably next week.
Awesome. So that'll be a nice compliment to one of our patrons who's going to walk away with that Audible audiobook. Awesome. Well, hey, Eve mentioned it, but I'm going to throw out another plug for Outer Rim Originals. If you haven't yet ordered your signed limited edition artwork featuring Han Solo, and we've got one that's the Star Destroyer in the Kessel Run, and we've got another one by Alex Iniguez, who has got basically Han and Kira and Lando and Enfys Nest there, and both of them are super cool. They'll be hanging in the studio soon enough. So we've got a couple signed copies left. So please go to outerrimoriginals.com and grab one before they are gone. As always, we thank you for hanging out with us tonight. I had to take a breath there. My goodness, we thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We are so glad that you are part of this podcast, that you are part of our extended USW family. And listen, it's always important to know that we, of course, will always bring our opinions, but we are not the authority on this. And we want to hear back from you. If you disagree with us or you agree with us, you have a different take on anything that we've talked about, we want to hear from you. You can always catch us at unmistakably.starwars@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at unmistakably.sw, but by all means, give us some feedback, and we'd love to know where you stand on this. Again, this is part 1 of a 3-part series. Next week, we'll jump into part 2, and we hope to hear from you then as well. As always, we want to thank our patrons. We're talking about Brandon Boylan, Jim Capron, Dave Hackerson, Michelle Grandine, Jeff Keltz, Neil Lowry, Mario Piper, William Pollock, Regina Sanders, Connie Shee, Aaron Sinner, Krista Smolinski, Franklin Taylor, Brad Tracy, Michael Ward, Amy Wishman, and our mystery Peyton. I love C-3PO. C-3PO did not wreck my childhood. My adulthood, perhaps, but not my childhood. I love C-3PO. So thank you, mystery donor. We appreciate that. Your financial investment allows us to do a lot of great programming things like these live streams, like our patron giveaway each and every month. So thank you for your generosity. That's all for this week, my little tauntauns. The circle is now complete. We'll see you next time in the digital docking bay. And until then, may the Force be with you.
Unmistakably Star Wars is a member of the Star Wars Escape Pods Network. Explore more great content and get to know our sister shows at weareescapepods.com and on Twitter at weareescapepods. The Star Wars Escape Pods Network, promoting positivity in fandom.
This party's over.
Move on.
And we're clear. Yay! Nicely done,
Yay.
everyone.
Woo! Good job.
Skype high five.
Woo!
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Neil, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks,
also,
Neil.
we had Micah. Micah tonight.
Micah. What's up, Star Wars
Yeah.
time? Yes. Nice. Man.
He's not on now.
Oh, I take it back then. Take it back. Oh my gosh. I hope he's going to be able to go to Celebration too. He's kind of in the neighborhood. Be cool to see him.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
He did.
Still on, and I think I have a spider crawling on my leg.
You had a spider crawling on your leg. Rad.
I did.
Oh.
Time to
I'm freaking
light
out.
yourself on fire.
Nice. Good stuff. Hey Neil, thanks, buddy. I'm gonna stop our stream, but thanks for hanging out with us. Have a good day
Have a
ahead
good
of
night,
you.
Neil.
Good night, Neil.
Bye, Neil.
Bye, Neil. Yes, good morning.
I don't know
Awesome.
what it was, and I'm freaking out.
Stand up and shake it off, girl.
That's just freaky. Are we clear yet?
No. There you go.
We're clear?
Yes.
Okay, what the hell was that?
Use your iPhone light. That's what I do when I'm in doubt.
I